Welcome everybody to our PACE webinar titled Breaking Down the Book, where we're going to learn about PACE's book, Unleashing the Power of Profitability Analytics. I'm also excited to be joined today by Raef, Lawson. He's the executive director of PACE, and he's the lead author of this book. So for those of you that may not be familiar with PACE, it is the Profitability Analytics Center of Excellence, a group of entrepreneurs that help organizations make better, more informed decisions with the use of data analytics. So they do this with an integrated causal framework that models out this PACE profitability analytics network. The great thing also is it's free to become a member. So if you haven't already joined, I would do so even right after this call or our webinar today. Also, in addition to once you join the group, there's a ton of helpful articles out there as well. So in addition to this book, there's a ton of resources that will help you as a finance professional. So definitely check those out. Also, a little bit of housekeeping before we go further. If you'd like to receive a certificate of attendance for today, make sure you sign in and also participate in all the polls that we have throughout the day. So you can edit your name on the screen if you want to, and then you just make sure that you answer all the polls and stay for at least 50 minutes of the presentation. So again, we'll have questions, but we'll also welcome questions that you want to add. You can type them into the chat, or questions that we'll kind of cover at the beginning. But if you have some questions that you want to add, you can type those into the chat, and we can go through those towards the end of our presentation today. All right, so a little bit about me. I'm a newer person to the finance and accounting realm. I actually began my career as a personal trainer. I was in the health and wellness industry for a few years, but I've been now almost 15 years in accounting and finance roles. And I've gained a lot of experience. And one thing I really like is the new book is a really useful framework for finance professionals to really dive in for causality. This day and age, it's not just about cutting costs and not like managing operating expenditures. It's building really strategic in doing so. So the book that Raef and the team have built and written is an excellent resource. Outside of my work in finance and accounting, I have 3 kids, so I love spending time with them. All the activities and this, so yeah, all throughout the year we're busy with sports or some sort of school activity.
So I'm Raef Lawson. We also participated in this session today, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm the executive director, as you all probably know, of PACE, Profitability Analytics Center of Excellence. I've been executive director for about 5 years now. Prior to that, I was vice president of research and policy at IMA for about 15 years, where I led its global thought leadership efforts. And PACE is actually an outgrowth of some of the work I did there. I've had a variety of leadership positions in academia, public and private practice, and professional associations. So I think I've seen every side of this profession. But this job now, this position now, is really my passion. PACE is doing such great work, and I'm happy to be here today to talk about PACE's book.
All right. So I guess the biggest question is kind of.
Go for
oh
it,
yeah,
Lucas.
sorry for go further. Yes. So before we dive further, the learning objectives for today. So after completing this session, you'll be able to name the components of the profitability analytics framework and how they relate to managing profitability at your company. We'll also go through describing the use of models in the strategic management process. You'll be able to understand the principle of causality and be able to apply it to your organization. And then finally, you'll be able to identify instances where the use of accounting data prepared according to external financial reporting standards can lead to dysfunctional internal decision-making. And also, yeah, again, if you want to earn CPE, make sure that we can see your first and last name in your profile so that we can assign you the CPE in the right way. All right, so with that, we've got to go through what we're going to discuss today. One of the big questions jumping in with with Rafe is like, what motivated you to write this book and why now?
Well, that's always the great question, isn't it? Uh, I think a lot of organizations are seeing that traditional financial reporting can't keep pace with the rising complexity of organizations. Uh, you can look at the news headlines and say organizations are facing margin compression, rising customer expectations, we're much more volatile business environment, and profitability analytics has emerged as a response to those changes. It's uh, we see that executives are just drowning in data. This is the information age, but they're lacking the insights they need to manage their organizations effectively. They need what's forward-looking, causal, operationally grounded insights, and that's what the Profitability Analytics Framework is designed to do.
Yeah, so that's really good. So with that, like, what is the profitability analytics, and so how does it differ from profitability analysis?
Right. So, in writing this book, one of the things we thought about very deeply was, what is profitability analytics and how does it differ from profitability analysis, which is what most of the people listening to this webinar today are familiar with. So, profitability analytics we define as the systematic use of data, models, and analytical tools to understand, predict, and optimize profitability. So, what's the difference between that and profitability analysis that we're all probably familiar with? And let me put up a slide here. So, profitability analysis explains what has happened using historical data. And its primary purpose is exactly that. Orientation is descriptive and diagnostic. If we do ratio analysis, right, it's type of profitability analysis, it looks at what's happened and we can get an idea of why it's happened. Why is our profit what it actually was? It typically uses historical financial data. We look at the financial statements, the revenues and costs on them. We look at the margins, perhaps. In the time horizon, we're looking at this again historical data. Look at the past and current time period. What are the tools that are typically used? Well, maybe ratio analysis, of course, widely used, various costing measures, and external financial reports. And the output is exactly that: financial reports and insights into what has happened in the past periods. Who are the users of profitability analysis? Well, finance and accounting, typically. How does profitability analytics differ from that? And that's the question. It's forward-looking. Profitability is what will happen and what should we do given our current circumstances. The data focus is also quite different. Instead of just focusing primarily on financial data, we're looking at incorporating holistically financial data, operational data, and external data. The time horizon that we're interested in is the present and future. And we do our analysis using statistical modeling, machine learning, other tools like scenario. Using those tools are forecast, decision recommendations, and the users of the outputs are finance again, but also those involved in strategy, data science, and especially executive leadership of the organization.
So what makes the Unleashing the Power of Profitability Analytics different than other books that maybe kind of cover like a similar topic and background?
That's a great question. So there isn't that much out there on profitability analytics, but what there is this book and is unique. It's based on the Profitability Analytics Framework developed by PACE, and it's just that it's a framework, not a method. It's a framework that all sorts of methodologies can be incorporated in, but it's taking a holistic. Great, thank you for that comment, Ben. So it takes a much more comprehensive approach than other perspectives in a number of ways. And those include that it integrates strategy management with operational planning. So we're not just looking at throwing data into some model and seeing what comes out, but we're really very seriously consider how do we integrate our operational planning with the strategy that our organization is formulating. It also emphasizes how analytics should be used throughout the strategy management process. It incorporates a holistic consideration of revenues, operations, and investments. So a lot of folks on this webinar today are in accounting and finance, and we know that our profession historically has been focused to a large extent on managerial costing or cost accounting. And really, we need to enlarge our remit to really become profitability analysts, to understand the impact of cost drivers on our revenues and on the investments needed to support our operations, and to holistically analyze and consider profitability. That's what this book's about. And then finally, it's, as I mentioned before, it's not based solely on financial measures, but also focuses on operations. And this is where a lot of organizations modeling falls down. It's based solely or to a great extent on just financial numbers and metrics. And we really need to get this deeper understanding of the organization to understand the levers that affect the profitability of the organization.
So many leaders might believe that they're already measuring profitability. What gap would you say that they're missing?
So most organizations measure their profitability at a fairly aggregate level. Their business units, products, regions, maybe. But the real economics of value are often buried in granularity, looking at customers or transactions, fulfillment patterns, perhaps, without understanding the drivers that create or erode margin. Leaders often optimize at the wrong level.
Yeah, okay. So with this, like the book definitely emphasizes causal modeling. Why is causality so important?
Causality is probably the key takeaway of this book. And if there's anything that listeners today take away with them, is the need to understand causality and include it in their modeling of the organization. So causality is just cause and effect. It involves identifying the key elements of the organization's business and how they relate to each other. So why is that important? It enables you to incorporate the operational mechanisms that produce economic outcomes, right? Things like cycle times, service levels, product complexity, and resource capacities. And then you can include those in your operational and financial planning. Employee causal models in this way helps leaders and managers make more accurate, provides them more accurate decision support information, enable them to make better decisions. So I'm going to interrupt for a moment. And since we are going for CPE credit, I do want to push out the next, first polling question. And actually, here we go. So you should see it on your screen. This is just to make sure everyone's been listening. The Profitability Analytics Framework, choose one, emphasizes how analytics should be used throughout the strategic management process, uses causal modeling to provide decision useful information, incorporates holistic consideration of revenues, operations, and investments, is not just based on financial measures, but focused on the operating activities that generate those financial measures, or all of the above. So please make your choice if you haven't done so already. And I think we're good. In the poll and share the results, and everyone got the answer correct. It's all of the above.
Great job, everybody. So make sure you participate in the other poll questions that we'll have in our webinar today to make sure you get the full credit for joining us. So moving on, we'll go through some more questions about this incredible book. So now my next question is, how does PACE's Profitability Analytics Framework connect to strategy execution?
Let me just make sure I'm not sharing anymore. Okay, good. Good. So I was a little distracted with that poll. Could you repeat your question, please?
Oh, sure. So how would you say that PACE's Profitability Analytics Framework connects to the strategy execution?
Okay, sure. Let me just put up another slide. So how does PACE's Profitability Analytics Framework connect to strategy? There's been so much in the literature about why strategy fails. You know, it's been a great debate in the literature on whether it's the formulation of the strategy or the execution of the strategy, and with many people thinking it's largely the execution of the strategy. I think one article said it was like 90% of the time execution. But what does that mean? A strategy often fails because it can't be operationalized. And the PACE Profit Analytics Framework closes that gap by creating a transparent line of sight from strategy to operational drivers to the economic consequences. So it employs these causal models that we talked about to first formulate and validate the organization's strategy, and then in the third step, uses those models for strategy execution. So as depicted here, there's 3 stages of strategy management: formulation of strategy, validation, execution. For many organizations, their strategy is not executed well. And why is that? Is it because of poor execution, or is it because the strategy couldn't be executed in the first place? And really, this is a lot of organizations fail to include this intermediate step, the validation of the strategy, and they need to use these causal models to see if the plans that they've put in place can actually be executed. So it integrates as well the framework, the revenues, costs, and investments of the organization. And by doing so, it helps turn the broad aspirations of these organizations into actionable, decision-relevant information that can guide the behavior managers across the organization. So with that, I will push out polling question number 2. Can you see the second polling question? Yes.
Yeah, it's showing there now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of organizations fall victim to that. I'm curious what the poll results will say. I think like the validation is something that many companies kind of skip over, or they don't really go fully through that process. So I'm curious what the poll will show us.
Okay, so I'm sharing the results of the poll, and it's very interesting, and I think it's consistent with what many believe to be the issue, uh, where the greatest challenge is in strategy execution. 43% of the organizations face that challenge. But again, as I just mentioned, is the challenge actually in the execution of the strategy, or is it in the validation? So again, nearly over a third of the organizations uh, have difficulties in validating the strategies that they've formulated. So it's perhaps easy, at least conceptually, to formulate your strategy. Only 7% of organizations consider that their greatest challenge. But again, it's in validating and making sure you can execute it that your organizations find difficulty. And so that's a great segue into why they need to have a framework like the Profitability Analytics Framework, which provides a detailed plan on how you can go about developing causal models that can be used to help formulate, validate, and also execute your strategy.
Yeah, so that's a great leading to my next question. So what organizational challenges prevent companies from building the capabilities needed to implement this framework?
So there's 3 barriers that have consistently emerged that we've found. And by we, I mean the directors of PACE and the many consultants and practitioners that we work with in developing resources here at PACE. And those 3 barriers that we consistently emerge. The first is siloed data that hides the cause and effect relationships within an organization. And again, without understanding the causal relationships within the organization, it's almost impossible to make well-informed decisions. Another is fragmented accountability, where there's no function that owns end-to-end profitability. And a great example of that is customer profitability within organizations. Accounting has the financial data, marketing has more sales data, operations understands the factors that go into the products and costing. But in many organizations, all of that data is fragmented, so it's very difficult to talk about optimizing the profitability of your customers. And thirdly is legacy financial systems. They're designed, most companies have financial systems that are designed for uh, compliance for external financial reporting rather than internal decision making. They're unable to provide the information that companies need to make informed decisions. So in our book, we have 3 chapters devoted to customer profitability management, how to measure it, how to manage it, and how to develop information systems that help support issues that we just, there's siloed data, so it's uh, tough to um, understand how profitable your customers are. There's no fragmented accountability, and your financial systems aren't uh, aren't up to providing the information you need.
So one thing, like with many organizations, anytime you implement something new, whether it's a strategy or anything else, it can be a massive undertaking. So how can organizations start implementing profitability analytics without a massive transformation?
I think try to uh, implement a new methodology, a new system, or whatever. Know there's typically a great amount of organizational inertia. And how do you get started? Um, the most effective path is to identify your organization's pain points, right? Where it's immediately involvement and support. And that's critical in any major change initiative. And then just start with one strategic use case. Is it pricing? Is it customer profitability? In many cases, that may be it. Product complexity, retention, customer retention, and then build a driver-based model, as I talked about before, that links your organization's operations to economic outcomes. That'll help you get small, uh, demonstratable wins, and you can build credibility with those, and then momentum for your initiative, and go on from there.
Yeah. So when it comes to this process, how does this approach change decision making at the executive level?
So uh, it basically lets executives shift from debating opinions, which are based on which when they don't have facts, right, to orchestrating interventions based on real-time information. Decisions can be grounded in observable drivers, whether revenue, cost, or investment drivers, rather than just anecdotes. Oh, this customer is a good one. We've had him for 20 years. It's well, that's an anecdote, and he may be your most unprofitable customer as well. It's instead of saying how do we perform last quarter or last year, it's what levers do we need to pull to meet our goals for next quarter. And goes back to the idea of culture, where leaders need to be able to challenge assumptions, test scenarios, quantify alternatives. You may assume that certain customers are profitable, certain products are your gems, which implementing this kind of system will debunk, right? So the framework enables leaders to ask questions such as, if we change our service levels, what will happen to our margins? Or if we alter our mix or product pricing, how that will affect our capacity utilization? If we pursue a new segment, what will be the ROI from that? So again, it helps transform the organization from gut-based decision making to really data-grounded strategic choices.
Yeah. So, and obviously, like reading the newspaper headlines and different headlines online or even at work, technology is first and foremost like a big big topic nowadays. So what role does technology play, and what role does it play?
Yeah, technology is, I think, every other major headline we read, if not more. And accelerate technology, is critical. Employing technology, it helps accelerate data integration, helps accelerate modeling, helps accelerate data visualization. But one thing we have to keep in mind is that it doesn't replace the need for strategic clarity and managerial judgment. These technological tools help amplify managerial insight. They don't define it.
It's good. So while we're on the subject, technology and AI being such a big topic as well, what role do you see AI playing in profitability analytics?
AI definitely has an important role to play. It can enhance the implementation of the profitability analytics framework by helping identify uh, drivers, help forecasting, help with scenario simulation. For example, machine learning can help uncover hidden cost drivers or predict customer lifetime profitability. However, again, AI is not a substitute for managerial judgment. It just makes the decision inputs more faster, more accurate, and more dynamic. And we all know today, in today's business environment, speed is the name of the game.
So I think we're ready for our third polling question.
Yes, we are. So with that, let me push the question out. So which of the following would be the greatest impediment to implementing the profitability analytics framework in your organization? One, lack of senior leadership support, siloed data and operations, legacy financial systems, the need to invest in new technology, or something else. I probably should have included all of the above on this one as well, but we'll see. We'll see what the results are here. And perhaps if it is something else, you might want to tell us what it is in the chat. Yeah. Okay, I think everyone's participated. So very, very interesting. So it's lack of senior leadership support is a big one. And, this reminds me of a study that I did when I was at IMA in conjunction with ACCA, Associated Chartered Certified Accountants from the UK. And it looked at the evolving role of the finance professionals and management accountants. And, there's the desire to evolve to being strategic business partners. And the challenge was that in many organizations were not viewed in that way. And it's what do you do to achieve that transformation from just a reporter of financial information to being a business partner and being able to offer insights that enhance the profitability of an organization. So this lack of senior leadership support, right? This lack of a view of senior leadership of financial professionals as a business partner certainly is an issue that finance needs to address. And I think over the last 5-10 years, we're starting to, but there's a long ways to go. But if that is a challenge for you, I'd definitely refer you to that study that we did. It was a very interesting report where we had, I think, a 10 step process to becoming a strategic business partner. Siloed data and operations. Again, it again goes back to company culture, and that is again a major issue for many organizations And as these results attest, it's sales doesn't want finance butting in and telling them who to sell to or not. Even though if we work together, we can make our organizations, enhance the profitability of our organizations. I'm surprised that there's so few lack of legacy financial systems is not more highly chosen here, but maybe because of the urgency of the other two could be the issue as well. And someone in the chat said a lack of cost accounting concepts, knowledge, for example, causality, arbitrary allocations, and so on. And that's something that we can talk about more as well. Organizations are using external financial reporting often to support their internal decision making, and in many instances, it's not the information managers need to make appropriate decisions. So, absolutely, that's a great impediment as well, and perhaps we can talk about that a little bit more later.
That's a good point. Like the arbitrary allocations, I feel like that is a common theme, at least at some points in my career, there's arbitrary allocations occurring. Mm-hmm. So next question, what advice would you give executives who want to future-proof their organizations?
So it would come as no surprise, given what I've said, that you need to invest in building a causal understanding of your business. Everything else is technology, dashboards, AI, everything else rests on that foundation. If you don't have that understanding of how your business operates, what makes it profitable or not, then you're shooting in the dark, right? You're wasting money on the technology. So understanding that causal understanding of your organization is key. Once you've mastered the causal drivers of how you create value, then you can outperform those who don't have that knowledge.
Man, that's great. So then one final question. If someone asked you why they should buy this book, see, I get the camera here. What would you say?
Yes, this book. There we go. This book is going to give you something that you won't find in other books, and something you're not getting elsewhere today. It's a way to obtain a clear causal understanding of how your organization actually creates or destroys value. It's going to tell you what your financials aren't telling you. Again, we talked about profitability analysis and how it differs from profitability analytics. You need to get beyond understanding what happened to understanding why it's happened and what you need to do to get to where you want to go in the future. The book contains a framework that's practical, not academic. It helps you lead with clarity in a data-rich and insight-poor world. It's built for action. It helps you identify the right operational drivers, build causal models, helps you integrate operations and finance and economic data into a model that gives you insights into how you can create value in your organizations. It contains some great case studies that show how other organizations have implemented the principles in the book. So the bottom line is you're responsible for the profitability of your organization or supporting that. This book will be a benefit to you.
Looks like we have some time here, so we'll try to go through some questions that came in through our chat. Let's see. Okay, so one here, finance seems to be comfortable at the back office, focused on accounting and reporting. What, in your view, is stopping finance from embracing the profitability analytics as a way of life and to sustain value creation?
So that's a great question, and that reminds me of another study when I was at IMA many years ago. But I think the results are still relevant today, and it looked at the role of CFOs, and we did a similar one for controllers uh, on how they spent their time, how CFOs spent their time, uh, and compared to how they wished they spent their time. And the results of both studies was the same, that CFOs spend a great deal of their time, the majority of their time, on traditional responsibilities, on on compilation of data, financial reporting, stewardship of the organization's assets. And these traditional responsibilities certainly are important. Less time was spent on the emerging responsibilities of finance, that help it become a strategic business partner. And again, we asked the CFOs where they wish to spend their time, as I indicated, and they wanted to spend more time on these strategic activities rather than the traditional ones, but they didn't have the time. Basically, many organizations, finance, again, is looked at as this low evaluating, must-have function that is often under resourced. And the great news, though, is that with all these emerging technologies, we can automate a lot of our traditional responsibilities and start focusing more on these strategic higher value adding activities. And I mentioned before, in response to your question about where do you start? It's approach folks in other operational areas and say, what are your concerns? Don't transition from the compliance cop, can transition from the bean counter to the bean grower. What are your pain points? How can we in accounting and finance help solve those issues, and by helping address those issues, hopefully through the use of the development of these causal models and that incorporate financial and operational data, and cross-functional the use of cross-functional departmental cooperation. Finance will start to be seen as something that is a business partner, an organization that can create value and be a business partner within the organization.
All right, great. Let's see, we have another question here. How can we learn more about causal modeling? In addition to the book, are there other materials that can be utilized to help the management team help them get it?
Sure. Well, I would say the book does cover the idea of causality very well. I mean, there's a whole chapter on causality, and we discuss that as well. elsewhere in the book. But PACE has a tremendous amount of resources available, and they're free, and they're available on our website. So I would encourage you to go to our website, profitability-analytics.org, and avail yourself of those. There's just just a wealth of information there that can help you add value to your organization and help you advance your careers.
Yeah, the book is excellent in that regard, I must say, just from like the framework itself, but it's just the whole part of the planning process. So are there any plans for PACE to offer a professional certification in profitability analytics?
The short answer is yes. We have started development of a certification in this area. It'll include all of the all of the concepts in the framework. Talk about the strategic modeling, causal analysis, and it'll also include some content on analytics. So folks who take that really will have the skills to be able to help add value to and create value within their organizations. It'll be an incredible set of skills that a professional can have, those professionals with that certification.
Yeah, that's good. All right, let's try to think. I think we got through all the questions that came in. There's still time to add questions if you would like. But I just want to take this time to thank you, Raef, for this very interesting and informative talk about the PACE book. The book again is Unleashing the Power of Profitability Analytics. And I'm sure there's going to be some listeners here who are already headed to Amazon or Barnes & Noble to buy their copy.
So I did want to mention that.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I did want, some people are attending might say, where's the proof? Where's the proof of the pudding, right? Is this just a framework that you guys have concocted out of thin air? And the answer is no. Or there's real world organizations that have adopted this approach, and they've used it to reduce unprofitable volume, redesign their pricing structures, shift it to more profitable channel mixes, rationalize their product lines, and many other ways have improved their margins. There's just as two examples, a distribution company using this framework, the concepts in this framework, discovered that 30% of their customers consumed a disproportionate amount of their fulfillment resources. And this causal modeling revealed that it was order frequency, not order size, that was the driver of this discrepancy. And they redesigned their service tiers. They offered incentive-based order patterns. And by doing so, they increased their margins by 12% without raising their prices. I think that's a pretty incredible result. And there's another example. There's a mid-sized manufacturer of couplings. They were experiencing declining margins. They had capacity constraints that necessitated their outsourcing a significant part of their production. They had a backlog of 14 weeks, and they were in desperate need of a change to really turn their business around. They employed causal modeling. And that gave them the insights to make operational and sales changes, and that it helped increase their machine utilization from 45% to 85%. How incredible is that? They reduced their manufacturing time by 72%, and they increased their sales by 50%. So again, this book this is not pie in the sky theory that we're talking about. And this book contains a bunch of other case studies that describes the application of the principles in the framework that have just generated great results from those case study companies.
It's not just a book. It's got just said there's real world examples on businesses that have used this model, leveraged this model to be a more effective business. Just want to thank you everyone for attending and participating in this webinar. If you'd like to become a PACE member, it's free. You can get access to join other webinars, podcasts, articles, interest groups, and more. Just go to profitabilityanalytics.org to sign up. Again, keep an eye out for the Profitability Center of Excellence channel on LinkedIn, as well as like other webinars that the group conducts. So also sign up for the newsletter. It's a great way to get more information, not only about like concepts from the book, but just profitability analytics in general. There's a lot of great posts that Raef and people and colleagues posted, share. It's like a wealth of knowledge. So take advantage of that. Again, it's free. It's extremely a lot of helpful information out there. So with that, we'll go to our last poll question. The end of webinar poll, just ask you to fill this out, give your rating on the webinar today.
Well, thank you, Lukas, and thank you everyone for attending. Obviously, we think you enjoy this book, and hopefully you found this webinar of informative and of use to your whatever you do. And please be sure to sign up as a PACE member so you'll be informed of future webinars. Well, thank you, Lukas, and yes. Those holiday greetings apply for you as well. Yeah. Appreciate your support.
Yes, thank you all so much.
All right, take care.
Take care. All right, bye-bye.